Hello, John.
I wanted to ask you a slightly different question. Yeah, that's all right. I wanted to ask you, you worked on what would have been a Watchmen movie project.
It was a movie project.
But how did you feel adapting, such an important book?
Well, it was a great responsibility, and it was right after I'd written X-Men 2, and so I was sort of the comic book screenwriter guy, and my agents asked me what I wanted to do next, and I said I want to do the greatest comic book of all time, and that's Watchmen. And so I tracked down the rights and made a deal with the producers, and we set it up. And as soon as I did, someone gave me Alan Moore's number. Alan Moore is the author of the greatest comic book of all time. And I called him up and I said, my name's David Hayter, and I've been tasked with adapting your masterpiece into a movie. And I know you don't care for Hollywood, but I just want you to know how important this story is to me and how important it is to me to get it right. So, if you'd like to be involved, any level of involvement you want, please let me know. And he was very kind, and he said, "Oh no, David, the book is my story and the movie's your story, but you give me a call anytime if you have any questions." And he was so kind, and I called him a few times through the process, and that was really my job for about 9 years on that movie, was just to protect the integrity of that story and try to make a movie that reflected the brilliance of that very important book. So it was heavy duty.
You got to write for the Scorpion King. How much influence and how much of the story was yours, and did you enjoy doing the Scorpion King?
I did. I was brought in like 3 weeks before they started shooting, so I was like a last minute cleanup screenwriter. And so how much of it was mine? It was really, it was other people's script. I just came in and I came up with some new action. I kind of put in my own style of dialogue. Some of the dialogue had been kind of modernized, and this was a Stone Age thing. And it always drives me nuts when people are like, "Oh, that's gotta hurt," or, something like that, modern phrases. So it was really sort of taking the dialogue back to, it's not ancient. It's still goofy and action based, but try not to be so anachronistic. And then, so I did my rewrites on the script, and then I got to do a read through of the script, sitting in between The Rock and Michael Clark Duncan, who are two of the largest men I've ever seen in my life. And they're both in like string tank tops, and their biceps are like this. And I was like, if they both fell over at once, I would be crushed into a fine paste. But that didn't happen. And then one time, so I did my rewrites and everything, and I was on the set for a couple of weeks. And then they were like, "Okay, I think we're good with the script." So I went on my way, and then they called me one day and said, "We want you to come down, and we're having trouble figuring out the action at the end." And so I went, they drove me out to the desert, and they built this castle, and I got to stand with The Rock and the director, Chuck Russell. And I was like, "Okay, so where is everything?" He's like, "He's been shot in the back with an arrow." And I'm like, "Where's his bow?" And they're like, "Oh, it's here." And I'm like, "Okay, so he should, it's like you think he's dead. He just can't, and then he sees the bow, and the bad guy's got the girl. And so he goes and he crawls and he gets the bow like this, but he doesn't have an arrow." It's like, then he reaches back with Herculean strength, and pulls the arrow out and like this, and hits the bad guy and knocks him off the wall. And that's what you should do. And The Rock was like, "Yeah, like that." And so, so it was super fun. It was just, I worked on it for like a month, and it was amazing. So, and that was his first starring role. So, so I felt very lucky to have played a small role in his incredible journey. Sure, thank you.
You played the voice of Captain America in the Spider-Man animated series.
I did, that's right. I was Captain America.
At that time, did you envisage the MCU blowing up as big as it has now, and on reflection there?
No, not at that time. I mean, at that time, it was comic book nerds like myself that knew how special it was. But when I worked on the X-Men movie, and once that came out and was a hit, and then they started, asking me about comic book properties, I was like, the studios, I was like, you have no idea the amount of material that can be mined from this. And so I started to hope that it would catch on. And I haven't kept up with things. Has it caught on? I didn't know it would catch on like this. I didn't know that they would like literally mine every single comic book ever written. But as a nerd, it's pretty exciting to watch that happen, and it's a good time to be a fan.
This kind of really segued really nicely into my question there.
Oh, good.
As someone with a lot of X-Men experience, if you could play any character in the upcoming Wolverine game, who would it be and why?
Who would it be?
Who would it be?
Let's see. Would it be Wolverine? Yes, I'm
my
dying to
favorite.
play Wolverine. I'm dying to play Wolverine, and I tweeted it out, and like 1 million people saw that tweet the next day, and so I was like, come on. Wolverine's the greatest character in the history of characters, so I would love that. I don't know that that'll happen, but that would certainly be a dream of mine.
What's your favourite aspect of voice acting work?
There is no downside to voice acting work. Voice acting, I have a lot of different careers, and I'm a producer, and I've been a director and a screenwriter. I love them all, but voiceover is just pure fun. You work with the most amazing people. Like voiceover people are the nicest people in the world. There's no ego. You go in and with these incredibly talented people, and you just play. It's like doing a radio play, like from the 40s. It's a really special job, and I have so many fans say, I want to get into voiceover, and it's hard to break into it. It's a very tight circle, but once you're in, it's there's no better job in the world. So yeah, I kind of love it all. Also, they got little muffins, in the booth, and you can wear your pajamas, and you don't have to shave. And I mean, there's literally the upsides are endless.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So David, let's talk about Snake.
Let's talk about Snake.
So how do you feel about, he was a really big part of your life for a long time, and
Still
now
is, yeah.
It's really nice actually to see him popping up in Smash and all these other games.
Right.
Where would you like to see Snake pop up in?
Well, I mean, first of all, Snake has had a massive impact on my life, my career. It's been I do cameos, I do cons, I constantly am talking like Snake, and I would love to see more games be made, those epic games, and I'm looking forward to Jordan Vogt Roberts' movie, and it'd be kind of nice to see Snake grow beyond just the gamer community, although he's obviously had a big impact there. I love Snake to death, and people keep asking me, they're like, would you come back and do another game? And I'm like, yeah, why not? So yeah, hopefully, who knows? It's a valuable franchise, so that means someone's always going to want to try to do something with it, and I'd love to be a part of that. But we'll see. I don't know. Fingers crossed.
The ball in the back.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, you're choosing. I started. Hello.
Yeah. MCU, you won your own award for X-Men and X2. If you got invited back to write for any character in the MCU, who would probably be?
They're doing a reboot of Daredevil, and Daredevil was always a very important character to me, and I love the first way they did it. But there's certain things that that I'd want to adapt from the Frank Miller run on Daredevil that really meant a lot to me. I mean, that's really the one. But I mean, there's so many. Any opportunity. I'm not sure what Kevin Feige's plans are for the next phase. As the current crop of Avengers movies, have come to an end. It's like, what are we going to do with all those characters? I think there's just endless opportunity, as there were in the comic books. to just reinvent them and try different things with them. So it's kind of a wishy-washy answer, but pretty much anybody.
We do have time for one more, so if you want to pick.
Well, I got him off. So.
No, it's fine. We spoke a bit about Snake before. You mentioned the live action movie that's coming out.
Yeah.
I wanted to know what you thought of the casting of Oscar Isaac as Snake.
Well, Oscar Isaac is, obviously, one of the biggest movie stars in the world right now, and he's a perfect everyman, and I think he's an extremely strong choice for it. I'd be very excited to see what he does with it. I think it's great.
Has he spoken to you about it as well?
Well, he hasn't. He says he's a fan, so I guess he knows who I am. But no, I haven't spoken to Oscar Isaac about it. But I went to a speakeasy in Hollywood, and I had drinks with Jordan Vogt Roberts for about 4 hours, and we had a lot of drinks, and we talked for a long time about Metal Gear, and he is a huge fan, and like a genuine fan. So I feel like the movie's in very, very good hands, and I'm excited to see what's to be done with it. But I don't really know much about it beyond that.
Thank you.
So, of course. You sure that's it? Oh, come on. There's a few more.
One short quick one.
All right. You with the orange. Okay. Well.
So, sorry.
Yeah.
Obviously, you voiced King Shark in The Flash.
Yeah. Where's the Flash?
If given the opportunity, would you have voiced King Shark in James Gunn's Suicide Squad?
Well, no one knows this, but I sent a message to James Gunn because we follow each other on Twitter, and I know him a little bit from Marvel premieres and stuff like that. And I was like, hey, I do play the voice of King Shark on The Flash, and I know, you're going to use him in Suicide Squad. So, if you need any help with King Shark, let me know. And he was like, that's awesome. And then that was the last time. So, and then I think he went with a bigger name.
Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah. Oh, yes. An up and coming kid. So, but he was great. So, but yeah, I did chase that one down too. So this is what I do.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right.